Imagine you're watching someone's life unfold in chapters. Each chapter shows a pattern where they want something good, success, connection, health, but in the moments that matter, they do the opposite. They freeze, they procrastinate, they talk themselves out of it. This isn't about laziness or failing, it's about survival mechanisms the mind developed long ago. The book begins by guiding you into that story, not with blame, but with curiosity. You're invited to witness how the brain learned sabotage as a coping strategy, a way to avoid pain, to stay safe, to protect a fragile sense of self. As the narrative continues, the author introduces the first major insight: self-sabotage isn't a moral failure, it's a learned behavior. Think back to a scene in your life where you wanted something and instead retreated. That retreat wasn't random. Your brain calculated risk the best way it knew how. By prioritizing emotional safety over potential gain. Understanding this sets the tone: you are not fighting yourself, you are decoding yourself. From there, we move into identifying the early signs of sabotage. Picture yourself waking up with a plan, full of intention, and by midday, you're scrolling your phone, avoiding a key task. The book brings in vivid examples of these moments: the hesitation before clicking send, the quick detour to comfort instead of challenge. You start to recognize patterns, not as weaknesses, but as signals. Each signal is a clue, like breadcrumbs leading back to an old fear of failure, rejection, or discomfort. A pivotal shift in the storytelling comes when the author introduces the idea of interrupting the autopilot. Imagine a moment where a character breaks a cycle. Instead of reacting, they pause. That pause is the hinge of change. It's not force or willpower alone, it's awareness. The book takes you into that internal space where choice becomes possible, where habit is exposed and doesn't run the show anymore. The heart of the book is a set of 6 steps, but they are woven into stories of real people grappling with their inner resistance. The first step is about clarifying true motivation. There's a scene in which someone realizes they have been chasing someone else's version of success. They thought they wanted external approval, but the deeper desire was meaning. Once that clarity emerged, motivation no longer felt like a push, it felt like an internal pull. Step 2 explores understanding resistance. Picture a person about to take a big leap, applying for a job, speaking on stage, and then feeling that pull back to comfort. The book doesn't lecture, it narrates their internal dialogue, showing how resistance talks louder than desire when the stakes feel high. You learn to notice the voice of fear before it hijacks your action. The next part dives into strategies for harnessing willpower. This isn't framed as brute strength. Instead, there's a story of someone treating willpower like a resource that needs careful conservation and smart deployment. They learn to schedule demanding tasks when they're most alert, to remove needless temptations, and to build micro-wins that strengthen confidence. You absorb these lessons through narrative, so the strategies feel lived in, not abstract. There's a turning point in the book where these strategies become a lived habit for the characters you've met. One begins to replace avoidance with small, deliberate actions. Another reframes fear as information rather than a stop sign. These shifts are depicted through scenes, emails written despite trembling thoughts, steps taken toward a long-delayed dream. You witness change happening in real time. Alongside action, the book brings in the concept of self-compassion. One story shows a person berating themselves after a slip-up, then discovering that judgment only deepened their self-sabotage. When they learned kindness, acknowledging pain without feeding it, their resilience grew. This part feels like someone opening a door to a room you've always feared entering. You don't have to be tough on yourself to improve. The narrative doesn't shy away from setbacks. One character pushes forward with new habits only to fall back into old patterns under stress. But instead of despair, the book frames this as data, information to refine the strategy. The lesson is clear: change isn't linear, and every stumble teaches something valuable if you're curious rather than condemning. As the story moves forward, you begin to see self-sabotage as a dialogue between your current self and your past adaptations. There's a moment where someone writes their internal fears down, names them, and then consciously chooses a response. That act, naming, turns fear into something smaller, something manageable. The book shows how this practice becomes a turning point in their journey. Toward the end, the story shifts to integration. The characters aren't perfect, they're more self-aware. They catch patterns sooner, they intervene quicker, and they treat obstacles as puzzles rather than threats. The transformation isn't dramatic in a moment, it's cumulative. You see, over time, repeated tiny victories reshape identity. In the final part, the author invites you into reflection. It's like sitting with a mentor who asks, "What do you want to stop doing? And what is it costing you?" The focus turns inward, but not in a self-critical way, in a strategic way. You're encouraged to map your own moments of sabotage and experiment with new responses. The book doesn't offer prescriptions. It offers your own evidence-based experiments.